It's Monday afternoon. It's an unusual time for us, but however, we use the opportunity being here. So it's Monday afternoon, 4 p.m. in Central Europe, and it's time for our first Space Café live here from Vienna. As always, we appreciate your participation and your ongoing feedback. I'm Torsten, the publisher of SpaceWatch.Global, and today my co-moderator is our editor-in-chief, Dr. Emma Gatti. Drum roll here. So, and thank you, Emma, for doing that with me here on stage. So, and I know I pushed you into this role here, but by now you should have read what you have to say. Then
that's okay. That's okay. I learned it by heart.
Yeah, that's fine, and you are flexible. So, SpaceWatch.Global, for those of you that doesn't know that, it's a Europe-based online platform for information in and about space and new space activities in a geopolitical context. But we are not limited to that, and we are in the transformation process at SpaceWatch.Global, and we will tell you more about that very, very soon. So, end of the year is always good time for rethinking and restructuring. So we will do that as well. I know many of you are familiar with our website, our bi-weekly and daily newsletters, and our Space Café podcasts. So don't miss the 4th episode of our Hera mini-series, which features Dr. Naomi Murdoch, and it's called The Sounds of Mars. Planetary scientists unveil Martian mysteries. It is absolutely awesome. And if you are in sound or if you are just on cool stuff, listen to that very particular episode. But we have also new episodes on our Space Café radios. So from COP28, live from Dubai, I think was this recording, and from the Kármán Fellowship, because our Dr. Emma Gatti is a wonderful Kármán Fellow, and she brought so much material back from, and I say that once, from the Maldives. I know that's not fair to say, but she has to be for a business trip on the Maldives.
Somebody has to do it.
Yeah, somebody has to do the job, and I'm so grateful that you're working with me. So thank you very much. So, and if you want to become a space watcher and have such cool t-shirt like Valentin or myself, so just go to our web shop and get one. So it's open on our website. And if you have missed any of our previous web talks, we have an archive available on our website in the event section and, of course, on YouTube. Emma, over to you. What can we expect today?
Thank you, Torsten. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us. This is our first Space Café Live. This is the first time we are on stage, so it's really a pleasure to be invited here. So thank you to Caffè Carina, who is hosting us. The location, unfortunately, I don't know if it can be transmitted via online, but it's beautiful. And thank you, obviously, for the wonderful Viennese hosting, because it's a pleasure to be after many years. This is only my 3rd time, I must say, so I'm not an expert. The theme of today...
Viennese hosting. I would like to know that.
I'm actually...
Because for me, as the Germans, they're always grumpy.
Well, they're not so hostile towards us. And Sarah and I will bring the Mediterranean side here. So I think it's slightly different. And it's only 1 hour from Milan, so it's a perfect thing. So the theme of today is Space 2030. The place to be, or a regulator's nightmare and operator's hell. So this is interesting because for those of you that are not so into the space sector, which might be none of you, but I'm just going to repeat it in case. 2030 is a very interesting topic. It will be discussed tomorrow at the Global Space Forum. But sometimes the sector has the tendency to create containers which are full of buzzwords and emptiness, and they are not really proactive towards solving a problem. So we love to get lost in policies and reports and regulations, but then the actual proposals, they might be kind of slim. So the idea today that we want is try to discuss this container, Space 2030. Is it useful or not? Or how, and if not, how can we make it useful? We're going to discuss this with Sara Dalle Donne, the Research Fellow and Lead at Regulatory Affairs at SP. Sara, welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you. And Valentin Eder, CEO of Space Analysis and local Viennese, we say, or at least Austrian, right?
Yeah.
Good. I should have checked before.
I'm not a tourist. I live here.
It's not exactly. So how are we going to talk about this? We decided to tackle 3 points. One is the regulatory framework, which means can we give each other some rules that can actually help us to create a better policies, a more sustainable space exploration and commercialization. This is very interesting because we're going to discuss about this in the next few days at the UN. So it's a very interesting topic because it's easy to say policy, but to actually coordinate the entire world and allow an international policy framework for something that is not on Earth is not trivial at all. Second, operational challenges. In particular, we're going to focus on debris, which is a topic that has been broadly discussed among the communities. So we're going to try to understand how we can tackle something that is a more and more urgent problem. And then last but not least, future vision, how we can actually create the steps for our, how Torsten called our humanity's cosmic journey, which I kind of like. It is sort of romantic. Taking out of the romantic context.
That was ChatGPT.
I know, because since you use ChatGPT, the word cosmic keep popping up on our social media feed, so I'm totally sure. ChatGPT, I think we need to train the algorithm better, but beside that, it's not a trivial point because how we're gonna build this framework nowadays is so fundamentally vital for how we're going to explore space in the next 100 years. So the rules that we're going to set today are very, very important. The rules and the bias that usually are included in the rules, because of course we're human, so we always tend to do the same mistakes. Say that, I think before starting to ask questions to Sarah and Valentin, I think we can allow Valentin to give us a brief introduction because he's, yes, a guest, but somehow is also a host of Space Café. So Valentin, over to you for your introductory speech.
Thank you very much for having me here on stage and a very warm welcome to Vienna. Yeah, especially to Café Carina. It's a special place for me. I have been here several times on stage, standing here, making music. And so it's my first time here in Space Café. Thank you for having me here. I've been asked to say some words about space sustainability. My name is Valentin Eder, and starting from 2019, we are looking to outer space, what's going on up there. Basically at the beginning, really on curiosity, what's going on up there. And we are not only looking to the number and mass of the objects, but to the traffic as a function of close approaches of objects on daily basis. So in this time, we filled up our sandbox with more than 30 million conjunctions, closer than 5 kilometers. And we see the dynamic of the objects and we see the behavior of the operators managing these traffics. And we count an increase of the traffic by a factor 1.6 in the last 3 years. So we have really something where I say, okay, we see an increase. Is that much? Is that something to be worried about? It depends. In some orbital shells, we see the traffic stable. There is nothing really going up and down. And in some shells, we see, I call it dramatic increase. And now, here coming the good news. In some, we see a decrease of this traffic. I stick to the good news. The sun activity cleaned up orbital shells in the last 6 to 8 months, up to about 650 kilometer orbital height. And the upcoming year, they promised us higher sun activity. So that sounds, for the moment, good. And here comes the little but. We see also a very dense traffic in the orbital shells, about 550 kilometers and little up there. And the sun activity is next year will be a challenge for these operators. We'll see.
Can I jump in? I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a Space Café.
Yeah,
It would
go, jump
interrupt
in.
My guests. So
Yeah.
when you're saying there's something good, you just described that the sun activities, solar activities,
Yeah.
destroying satellites?
No.
No.
It pushes the objects downwards the Earth, and some of the objects are not anymore working due to the sun activity.
What
So,
I define as destroying.
might
I mean,
be some
closer to Earth means then getting
hot. The debris is coming down, yeah, or a little coming down. As lower they are, as more it's cleaning up. That's the good news. And the bad news is all the operating satellites might get in trouble.
Okay.
So out of function.
Okay, back to you.
Good. Where I stopped. By the way, Hugh Lewis from the Southampton University just recently, on the 8th of December, published a nice article on LinkedIn talking about his work there, what he did. And he simulated 36,000 satellites as a constellation in LEO and assumed a good management of collision avoidance with best practice and so on, and came to the following results, and I quote, "The simulated constellation expected about 1 catastrophic collision per year." Good, so that is without any sunstorm and with any, let's say, bad behavior in space. That's the one side. On the other side, exactly what we talked before, there are big dreams. Moon village, regular lifts up to Mars, space traffic, the space transport initiatives and huge solar power things. And I haven't seen any of these very nice presentations and talks where the sustainability and the risk to be hit, is discussed. So this is for me a kind of the dreams on one side, the cosmic dreams, and the other is the reality of what's going on in traffic out there.
I love your optimism.
And I would call that as a cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, because one is uplifting. One is a nice uplifting dream that we don't have to do anything if not just, creating a uplifting vision. And the other one, we actually have to get to work and solve a problem that we have created. So yes, it is a cognitive dissonance, I would say.
And for me, this brings, I'm traveling around the world and I'm being in a lot of hotels, and everywhere are fire exits. In a hotel, everywhere is a fire exit. By definition, In every elevator is written, don't use it. Good? And it's monitored by smoke sensors and to have an automated monitoring to make the alarms and so on. This is not a topic at all in space. Yeah? If you're flying in a constellation, and I was asking guys, what's happening if now a major fragmentation is now in your path? Yeah? And I've got no realistic answers. Even SpaceX in Lausanne stated that's not our topic at all. And so that is something where I say, okay, that's for me similar than a hotel with a fire exit. And if there are exits, if there are plans, imagine everything is secret. If there are plans, then do the others know that suddenly 20, 50, 100 satellites are coming up to their orbit and crossing? Are they informed? And this is something where I say, I don't understand cognitive dissonance. And why are fire exits in the hotels? these are not due to voluntary agreements and due to best practices. It's just because of rules. And these rules are really checked if the fire exit is there. And so my assumption here is that we need rules what are executable and monitored on national and transnational level. So a registry, so a guy who has registered in, I don't know, Germany, Austria, or wherever, yeah, US, they have to monitor not only before the launch and making the plans, the business plans. At the end, you have to see where is the cash on the table, yeah, and do he really behave on a safe way there? That was it from my side, just as an introduction. Back to you guys.
Super. It's nice where you left us now. Okay.
I give you something where where it push forward. Good. I'm looking forward for regulations. What are exactly now hot cooked in the EU, and I would love to have them welcome from the complete community.
Good.
So I think I'm going to just say this and then I'm going to pass it to Torsten. I think the example with the hotel fireplace, in a sort of way, it explicitly explains what the problem is. On the other side, I will argue that something so easy to understand for our human brain, like fire, people die, create an escape route, is something easier for us to understand as something invisible like debris in space, which is one of the biggest problems with space. It's not something that we have an immediate understanding of. It's something per definition out there. We don't see it, we don't know it, it's far away. And we are also at the beginning of this. I will argue how many village houses had to burn through the centuries before we understood, hang on, we need to have a fire exit. So it's a double thing. The cognitive dissonance comes from the fact that it's not something that we know, we're not used to handle it, we don't see it, and we're at the beginning of it in a sort of way.
Oh, let me jump in there. I mean, we get, not we here, but in parts of the world, we get daily rockets on their heads, and we don't stop it as well. So, I mean, we don't learn from that. I mean, I know that's a very political thing, but we are not managing that. So, and it doesn't matter if it's the fire sensors in a hotel or in space, and it doesn't matter if we see it or not.
I would argue
rockets on your heads, you see it.
Yeah,
you feel it.
Is the point that we are throwing that. I mean, I'm not going to dig this geopolitical hole with you, Torsten, but the point that we are throwing the rockets is not because we are not aware of the danger that they can present. It's a completely different tool. So ignoring a danger because you don't see it is different from actually creating a damage because you're using that as a weapon. Right. So it's like, I think it's just two different levels. It's like this saying, oh, we are using guns. Yeah, we're using guns and we know that they can create a damage.
But we are here in neutral Austria, so...
Well, I didn't create the card, guys. Sorry, it wasn't me.
Let's come back to our program.
I stay very far away from the rocket topic. You just went straight into it.
Thank you very much, Valentin. And I mean, before we go more into the topic of the day on the regulatory issue, I would like to hear more about you and your background. So maybe Sarah, to get you also involved here in our conversation. So tell us about yourself. Why space? What is your background? And why space sustainability?
Okay, so firstly, thank you so much for the invitation. It's really a great pleasure to be here today. Again, as mentioned, I'm a researcher at the European Space Policy Institute, and I'm the lead on regulatory affairs. My background is mostly legal. I have LLM in international trade law and LLM in aerospace law at the McGill University. Previous to joining GASP, I was actually a research assistant at the Institute for Air and Space Law at McGill, and I'm also the space law expert at the University of Bologna. Then, maybe a few words for ESPI, if maybe the audience doesn't know. The European Space Policy Institute is actually a space policy think tank fully dedicated to space, the only one in Europe to be fully dedicated to space. And what we do is really to provide long-term vision, policy vision to policymakers as well as the broader space community. We focus a lot on space sustainability in our brief, in our reports, and in many other type of documents. We have actually just recently published our SP strategy on SP 2040, which focus part of it on sustainability. Then why we
I have a question about it later on in my rundown here. So
please do so. Why sustainability? Actually, is exactly the reason that was explained by Valentin a few seconds ago. It's a question that we find ourselves in a situation where, let's say, the overall use of LEO, especially for non-GSO constellation, are putting a burden on the environment, both from a physical but also a spectrum type of perspective. And I will have a comment on what you just say about the comparison between physical collision and spectrum interference and why they are managed differently. And this actually need to be addressed, especially because when it's about orbits, we are talking about limited natural resources. And as any other limited natural resources that we see on Earth, it needs mechanism and compliance mechanism to be addressed. So let's take action, let's say.
yeah, but thank you again for being here. It's great. And in a different panels. I mean, I had the pleasure to host Sarah on a panel in Brussels, which was different from our panel here. Let's put it that way. Valentin, what made you to the Valentin that you are? The same question to you. Why space? I mean, you
don't want to talk about your past.
Bringing us this dystopian future here. I didn't ask what went wrong.
You know,
you insisted to have that live here. By
yeah,
the way.
fair enough. No cut. No, yeah, you know, it's I'm coming from very different areas, and I just from industry and power management, and I did a lot of jobs before I joined space. And I just came to space due to the reason I had an awful boss, and I had to change department within Siemens, and I changed. I came to the Siemens space business, and I then was 8 years or something like that in Siemens space business, responsible for carrier monitoring, RF carrier monitoring systems. And so I stepped into and digging around with operators and being at ground stations, and yeah, and then Siemens paid me quite a lot of money that I leave, yeah. And then I just had one company, Liquifer. I was there for 3 years, in the management, and then stop everything from the beginning. I did my own company, and we did. Yeah, we are in the time and space continuum, doing data analytics and big data integration and doing platforms for processing and so on.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I mean, we have truly two experts here on the. 3 experts. I'm including you.
I can stay in the back. It's fine. It's fine. It's all right.
But Emma, why don't you take it forward?
I think we could contextualize a bit this sustainability concept, following a bit what Sarah is doing, because stepping a bit outside of the European dimension, there is a much bigger problem. You were just recently in Dubai at the WRC, which is a very important conference for the space sector. So maybe you can give us a sort of broad update about what happened in Dubai and how we can link it to what we are discussing here today.
Sure, thank you for your question. Actually, yes, right now in Dubai at the World Trade Centers in UAE is taking place the World Radio Communication Conference 2023, the WRC 2023, which is the major conference of the International Telecommunication Union. What they are trying to do there, it's really looking at aspects related to spectrum management and spectrum policy to ensure that we have radio communication services without interference. Yeah. And this is exactly one comment that I had before, because when you compare, for instance, collision avoidance with we are trying to tackle here with the sustainability issue and spectrum, we see that the result of such a collision or such an interference is completely different. Because, for instance, in spectrum management, you cannot work without a system that is efficiently used. So that's why it's much easier, let's say, to find consensus. But coming back to the WRC, we are talking about an international treaty-making conference that takes place every 3 to 4 years in different places, and really looking at the technical and regulatory framework for radio communication services. Then once spectrum, actually, I think we are talking about the backbone of any of the digital economy per se. And even looking at the satellite operators, there is no active value for satellite services if we don't have spectrum. It's really broad. It's about, I don't know, disaster management, passive remote sensing, Internet of Things, and so many others. So it's really one of the key elements when we are tackling the idea of using space and having benefit for space on Earth.
By the way, have you guys saw a movie called Leaving the World Behind with Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke? It just came out on Netflix. It's about a cyber attack in the US that stops all communication, including satellite communication, and just shows the world into utter chaos. So just speaking about this, if you have the chance, check it out. It's very nice. It just came out on Netflix. I don't know if I'm allowed to promote Netflix, maybe not. Big a mistake. You know, we didn't pay us, so just beep me when it's...
You know that's live?
Yes.
Okay.
One mistake after
it's on
that.
YouTube. But it's funny. So maybe this movie will make it then also to the Congress, like Gravity, which led then to the space debris guidelines.
Exactly. Check it out. It's very interesting.
But
It's exactly what you just said.
don't look up. Didn't make an impact.
Pity, because I liked that. I'm a big fan of them. Yes.
Same here. Sarah, what did you touch most in, not in Dubai, at the World Radio Conference? So what?
Just to give you a bit of insight, I mean, per se, I was there as part of the Austrian delegation with the Ministry of Finance, and I was there for 1 week, which was the second one. So we were still far away from the conclusion. But before the World Radio Communication Conference, there is the Radio Communication Assembly, the RA, and maybe I can touch upon 2 outcomes that were quite interesting. The first one is a resolution on space sustainability. As a result of resolution 2019 from Bucharest 2022, it was requested the Radio Communication Assembly to focus on the topic, and this resolution was an important step looking at how to better address space sustainability and the outer space of governance to tackle sustainability. Another interesting outcome was a resolution on the gender balance and the gender equality, which was quite an interesting, let's say, outcome. And then, of course, there are plenty of agenda items at the WRC that tackle sustainability and tackle space. From the fact of protecting GSO from non-GSO, the fact of looking at the intersatellite link, especially in K-band, Earth Station in Motion, and so many others. Maybe 2 that are referring to agenda item 10, and so the agenda item for the next WRC are particularly interesting. One is looking at the equitable access in LEO. Of course, we have planet system for GSO, but starting considering the equitable access for newcomers in the non-GSO, it's one of the topics that have been discussed. And the other one is related to lunar communication and
finally,
management in lunar communication. So a lot of interesting points, a lot of interesting agenda items.
Shall we define GSO maybe for...
GSO? No, we don't define that.
Okay, maybe we should.
We can ask our audience.
It become a quiz then.
Okay, it's me.
You get a coffee for free.
Exactly.
It's live, ask questions.
Maybe one serious question. You mentioned gender equality. Is that placed in a World Radio Conference, and how does that matter? Maybe you can connect the dots for us.
Oh, sure. So, related to sustainability, in the way we are discussing right now, not that much. But in terms of the ITU, of course, in telecommunication, in the telecommunication sector, we see quite a lot of work to do in terms of gender gap and so on, and creating a work environment and a sector that is per se sustainable in the broader sense, led the ITU to then focus on this resolution.
And in our pre-talk, you mentioned that the new director of UNOOSA, Arti Holamani, spoke there as well. I mean,
Yes.
in her new role, what makes it very special? Maybe you can explain that to our audience as well.
That was really interesting in the sense, in one of the plenary where I have been on the second week, there was this statement from the director of UNOOSA, which was quite an exception, because usually during this type of conferences, only the member states have the right to speak. While there was this expression for her to provide some adding value to the conversation, and this idea of trying to maybe connect the dots and looking at the broader picture and the international organizations that work on sustainability, and see whether there is a bit of work to do in terms of duplication of effort or better coordination. So I think her role there was really to start talking and debating about that.
Super interesting, and just some shameless promotion on Wednesday. For those of you that will follow online the World Space Forum, we will have the chance to interview Arti Holamani in a live Space Café podcast recording on stage there. So our host, Markus Moslechner, will have her, or will prepare with her, a podcast for you out there. That's pretty cool. At least I think.
Definitely.
I'm the biggest fan of our own podcast, but that's how it goes. And I'm quite potentially the only one who have listened to all of them. Valentin, bringing you back into the conversation here. Did you follow the WRC 23 in Dubai? I mean, obviously from here, not from Dubai, but
No.
no?
To be very honest, no.
Okay,
I'm
then
on-
I don't have to
I'm-
ask you about...
I'm on the other side.
You're on the
I'm
other side?
talking to the operators as exactly the non-geosynchron orbit. No, I told you. Spectrum management is a topic for the operators now. And we are in cooperation with the operators to measure the interference. So there is interference, we measure it, we provide the plans, and so we are on the data gathering side to prove and to give the information to the guys at the World Conference, the World Communication, World Radio Conference.
World Radio Communication Conference.
World Radio Communication
WRC.
Conference. Yeah, whatsoever. Yeah, that's WRC. Yeah.
We're not
It's like GSO, just as WRC.
Yeah. Exactly. That's why I didn't follow.
just
Yeah.
went for the wrong call.
No, exactly. We are doing the empiric data to manage that what they plan. We monitor.
Great, thank you. Emma, over to you. And by the way, I'm getting here notes from our visitors live online.
nice,
So
huh?
greetings to Israel, greetings to Meidat, our host of the Space
Thank you
Café
very
Israel.
much, Meidat.
Thank you for liking that.
Add good comments or not? Shall I
can't.
thank him or not?
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah.
I made it. No, I think it would be interesting to understand how what we're doing here now can connect with the next steps in our sector. So here we are in Vienna. It's a very important UN-sponsored forum, but is a sort of first step towards the summit of the future, which is going to be in New York. How the two things are linked, and what are we trying to do today that we want to bring into New York? Sarah, what do you think?
I thought you were asking me because you were looking at me, so I couldn't answer that. So that's why we have guests.
Was I looking at you? Sorry.
Yeah, at least
I'm
I
really
thought
sorry.
you were looking at me.
Apologies
That's
for that. Never do that again. Sorry.
Sarah, it was for you. Sorry.
Thank you for your question. Yes. So, yeah, you mentioned the Summit for the Future. The Summit for the Future is this conference that will take place in New York in September 2024. And of course, this is part of the common agenda of the UN, where, let's say, the outcome of the Summit for the Future will be the Pact for the Future. And in the Pact for the Future, we will tackle a lot of focus, a lot of aspects related to multilateralism in general. But in one of the chapters, in particular in chapter 5, we look at the governance of the global governance. And what is really interesting, and it's probably one of the few times where we finally address this topic, is the fact that there is a subchapter 24, that focuses on the governance of water space, and in particular in the peaceful use of water space. Then there is a path to the Summit for the Future, and for sure what we are experiencing right now, it's one of the steps. Indeed, the World Space Forum will serve to, let's say, feed the zero draft, the first draft, that will be the outcome of the Pact for the Future, together with a series of initiatives. Maybe to mention one that is interesting and connected, in preparation to the Summit for the Future, the Secretary General has released different policy briefs. One was focused, in particular, policy brief number 7 was focused on the water space governance and was requesting international organizations that are looking at space in terms of security, sustainability, and safety to maybe start getting closer and to see whether there is a work that could be done, providing option for the future. So I would say the World Space Forum, as well as this policy brief, as well as many other initiatives, are part of this path that will lead to the Pact for the Future in September.
So I think you have an answer now of why we struggle so much. So only in chapter 5 of the first draft, there are 24 sub-chapters.
And one of them.
Can you imagine how many sub-chapters there are in the entire pact? And this is only the first draft. Who knows how many drafts we will have? This is why we cannot get an agreement. It's fundamentally lost into a report. And this is just, we are just a little corner of a much broader picture. So
Yeah,
it's not even a question, it's a statement. I think it's not going to happen. You know.
What I do see is, to be very practical, is let's say for me, I don't see the bridge between the lawmaking, the law execution, and the jurisdiction, how they can now going on, let's say, operator, and you have 3 things before, yeah, how this bridge can be closed. For the moment, there are laws and, let's say, what definition of sustainability, and let's say what I would see necessary for lawmaking is a kind of definition on one side, what is safe behavior. Safe behavior in space, and this should be somehow measurable. Like we have on road traffic, safe behavior means not driving under influence, not driving too fast. That is a kind of standardized safe behavior. And we need also this kind of safe let's say, common understanding what is safe behavior in space. And the safe behavior on street has also the reason behind this, that you are driving on the street and you are risk maker. And this turning from the operators normally say, we take the risk. But at the end, nobody or very few persons talking about, but you are also a risk themselves. You, as you fly, you are the risk. Yeah? And that means you have the responsibility to behave safe. And one very straight and easy way would be, it's not allowed to come closer than, for instance, 500 meters or 1 kilometer to each other. If you do that, you pay a fee. Yeah? And that is so-called the definition, what is safe behavior, and what has to be, how to execute. I can measure it. Yeah? So the number of close conjunctions smaller than 1 kilometer is your number of fees, what you pay. I don't know, 1,000 euros or $1,000 per time. So that has an impact to your business case. So if you can't avoid that because you don't have a propulsion system, you have the risk. Okay, that means I have to pay fees. So what is now for the moment missing in space for me is a kind of, okay guys, we as administration or we as lawmaker define that you have to behave in the following way. For instance, no close conjunction or no RF interference. Every RF interference is paid. And this is paid to the local government to enable measurements.
But help me on that. RF interference is a violation, and that is charged by at least monitored by the ITU, definitely not charged by the ITU.
And not monitored. They do not have own monitoring station.
Okay, but at least that is in the plan, what you just mentioned, the responsible behavior, safe behavior, however we want to call it. There are discussions. There's the open-ending working group on responsible behavior in outer space in Geneva. So there are initiatives in that directions. And I mean, then you have set the guidelines and the rules, but you don't have the guys that monitor it. You don't have the guys that enforce it.
And it's not only necessary that the administration have to monitor it, the so-called execution. You have the out there on the streets. You have the guy with the speed meters, with the radar pistols, yeah, and you have to blow into something, yeah, if you're drunken or not, yeah. So they monitor your behavior, yeah, and this means you need to enable the execution, the administration, to get the data to monitor and to issue the fees.
If that's monitoring your behavior, then go to China.
Exactly, something like that, yeah.
Or read.
Yeah, but it's easy, you know, it's measurable. Yeah. So for me, this would be, let's say, the bridge where I say, okay, the framework in the rules are, you are not allowed. You have to behave safe, so that you are not a danger to somebody else. And then in the regulation says close conjunction for than 1 kilometer is a law violation, and that is executed. That bridge is missing for me for the moment.
Maybe we should insert this in subchapter 25
Space police
of
managed by
chapter
national
5 of draft 1, of course.
But for the WRC 23, it's too late. I mean,
Yeah, no, it's for the
27.
Pact for Future.
for the future.
Oh, okay. The other.
I'm already looking.
On the summit for the future.
Catch up, Torsten.
Yeah. Sorry. Where are we in Europe with that? The entire 7-year activity.
Yeah, Europe. I don't know. I'm very excited.
Europe.
I'm very excited to see the first drafts from the EU regulation.
You talk about the open calls for the EU space law, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm very excited.
Is that leading for your feeling in the right direction?
That what I heard rumors. Definitely, it's going to do that. So yeah, I hope that they will implement it over the service regulation and not over the space regulation. So if you are providing services into Europe by space services, then you have to comply to the rules in Europe.
Did you put your comments in?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Of course.
Wow. Cool. Nice. I know someone else who puts their comments in and they wrote about it. So Sarah, enlight on that.
You also?
Yeah. Oh, no, now we know 2 people that put.
Did you?
Wow.
No, I
No,
didn't.
no. Nobody asked. No, but
Everyone.
in that
Don't
case,
tell us.
I have to be fair. In that case, press was also allowed to contribute.
Okay.
It's not like the German space law thing. No, that's different.
All right.
Sorry, my German friends. Your call.
We contributed to the EU space law as SP. I agree with you that I think what is happening and the type of discussion in the context of the EU Space Law, it's definitely going in the right direction and tackling aspect. It's mostly related to 3 pillars, and we are focusing on sustainability, reliance, resilience, and safety. Meaning safety as, let's say, the use of space activities and the management of space activities for not impacting Earth in an environmental way. So a bit like there is a definition of space that's a bit different from what we are usually using. But maybe one of the points that we try to bring forward in such a contribution was really the fact that if we want to go for a EU Space Law, maybe we should really see the full adding value and take the most of it. And there are some aspects that are related probably with other policies, for instance, with talents, with innovation, with finance and so on, that could be definitely implemented and added in the EU Space Law. In the contribution, we try to mention a few examples. Is, for instance, the idea of monitoring foreign space investment, or potentially looking at if we really want to develop the market, potentiality for a preference clause for the launch sector in space, as well as other type of policies related to incentive for market creation, for satellite services or for space services. So if we really want to tackle a EU Space Law, yes, let's focus on definitely on resilience, on safety and sustainability, but maybe especially looking at the competitiveness element and the market creation, there will be a need to go a bit beyond and potentially expand the scope.
I see. You said foreign investment into the European space industry. That's what you mean?
Yes, not in terms of preventing them. It's more maybe a question of looking at monitoring them and maybe try to find the right balance between competitiveness and national security.
Okay, yeah. So to know how much went to US or to China.
To be aware and to see, maybe even to have some best practices or lesson learned from that.
Or Russia, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Don't be so bitter about it.
What? I'm not bitter. No. But I just heard as one of the recommendation, the innovation thing. And honestly, for me, every time in this context, innovation is mentioned, it's for me that's, we don't know what to answer here, so let's call for innovation. Sorry for being
But also
even more.
sustainability now is a bit of a jack of all trade.
Yeah, but
Okay, maybe slightly more refined that innovation. I agree with you. Innovation is properly.
I think I hand back to you to lift up the level here a bit.
Yeah, one comment to the so-called, we have to take care about our industry, yeah? If I just think that, okay, the lorry lobby, the transportation lobby says, come on, our trucks are trucks and we need to go faster, so we are allowed to go 100 kilometers an hour in the city, and everything else is against our business model. Sorry guys, that doesn't work out. Yeah, so safe behavior is completely independent of any innovation or whatsoever impact, economic impact. That is something for me completely different. Yeah, that have to comply to everybody. That's one topic. And now another topic, another comment. A story is, I've talked to a governmental guy, and he told me, give me some, I'm the only thing what I'm interested in, how resilient are my space services. I need them on my daily basis, and what you do up there, I don't care. You have to give me numbers, how safe or in risk are these services. And that brings it very good to the point to our economy. As I do need rules up there to save down here on Earth our economy. And so any influence or any idea of say, okay, we have to take care about our launches. Sorry, the launches is a so small part if we destroy our environment up there.
But so this is a very good example. Okay, I'm with you with this, with the need of rules to allow to use space as long as possible. When it comes, but let me allow me to do a bit of a step backward and ask both of you. When we speak about the EU space law, don't you feel that we have already a surplus of initiatives? We already have the LTS guidelines, we have the SSR. Do we need another initiative? And if yes, how this initiative is different from the one that we already put in place before?
Should I start?
Of course, absolutely.
Go ahead.
I mean, again, we see scientists, industry, policymakers raising concern about the fact that we are living in a congested space environment, both in terms of physical interference and in terms of spectrum. Then how we tackle the point? There are, of course, different philosophies and approaches that we can use. I think here we are really comparing two things that are completely different. Like with a EU space law, we have a regional approach, which is the European one. And what we are trying to achieve is really providing a legislative process that will lead to a binding instrument. Comparable to other national regulation at the member state level, as well as for foreign countries. Then, if on top of that, so on top of binding instrument, do we need non-binding instruments, so such as, for instance, the rating process or the LTS guidelines? Yes, I mean, it's really a question of both tackling the issue from a top-down process, which is regulation and then implementation, compliance, enforceability, or a bottom-up, so industry initiative, such as the sustainability rating, that hopefully with the proper level of public incentive and the proper consideration also from the public side can lead to the outcome that we want, so to really deal with this decongested environment. That's, I say, it's part of the same coin, but we need binding and non-binding, and they should run in parallel, because per se come also from two different type of actors, I will say. At least that's my view.
Valentin?
Yeah, for me, the LTS guidelines are a very good framework, and I want to put side by the LTS guidelines, the clean, the Zero Space Charter as a charter, as we say, this is our goal, as it should be, yeah, comparable to the Human Rights Charter. It is the goal as it should be. And yes, we need also some kind of labeling, or what I really see positive on the space sustainability rating, to say, okay, there are really some first guidelines to say, guys, before the launch, you get your label, you say, it seems good, you provided us the data as are your plans, and it looks nice, yeah? Mm-hmm. Someone from outside, what is the drawback from the space sustainability rating is that it's kind of, the operator have to bring everything in. You do not have to the space sustainability rating have nothing to check if this is true or not. Yeah, but it's just the papers behind, and the operator pays this space sustainability rating. So it's a kind of buyer and seller. One pays you, I gonna pay you, I don't know, 100,000, and you give me the rating. Thanks a lot. I give you all the papers and I'm free. And this is a kind of, let's say, it has a touch of greenwashing.
Yes.
You said it. Gosh.
Thank you. It just came out. I couldn't stop it. It just came out before I could just hold it back.
And what is clearly missing is the so-called independent, let's say, authority to do the same job as the SSR guys doing. They are doing it for money creation, from earning money, yeah. And at the end, this have to be moved to the authorities on one side, and on the other side, it have to be monitored. It's like you get your plate on the car, that's the SSR as it is. Nobody monitors what you're doing with the car, if you're driving drunk or too fast or whatsoever. And this is completely missing at the SSR. And you need national laws for execution to get the money, to execute the money. Yeah, that's it. What it makes sense. You have to really make the sustainable behavior as an impact to the business plan.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just conscious of the time. Do we want to get into the geopolitical question, or maybe we want to take a question from the audience?
I mean, nobody cuts us. That's a
all right,
thing.
so just keep going, keep rolling. Okay, I'm fine with that.
I mean, and I can tell you it's dark. It's dark outside anyhow, so
all right.
it doesn't get darker then.
Okay, no, that is actually true. Okay.
It's on me, I think.
So to you, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm also stealing your question.
I would like to come back to our topic of the discussion here, and that was stated: Space 2030, a place to be, or regulators' nightmare and operators' hell. Honestly, how critical is space for the regulator, Valentin? Soma.
It's that's I don't know. We see it in the geopolitical context. The U.S.
I don't know, and it depends doesn't count here.
No.
You're not a lawyer.
The U.S. is formulating the path. They are going the way.
Yeah.
Really, they are on track. And
is that good?
I don't care. I have not to decide if this is good or not. I just see that what they're doing, and at the end of the next year, I expect to have the complete space track as a PPP model. So everything what you want to get on data from the US have to be paid and have to be contracted. So that is the track what the US is doing, and they get it that everything what is not US companies, they have to pay and whatsoever what is reasonable. So they are on track anyhow. There are nice initiatives, really cool talks within Europe, within the DEFIs, within the commissions, within the commission. Really, they are. There's the U.S. and Europe are on good track. As they are both quite powerful, suddenly China is now interested to join and come in. Good, and that is for me a good sign for a kind of, okay, guys. We have to agree somehow. We know we have a problem up there. Yeah, let's handle it together. I will not comment on the Russian position, and as.
But I can tell you that's Emma's next question. But
yeah.
No, I will not. No, I have too much experience with them.
Sarah, what is your feeling how our European governments at large see the situation, and what is the national angle here?
I think I agree with Valentin when we are saying that there is an evolution on national regulation. I mean, if we see national space law, there is historically mostly focused on oversight purposes, but we see a trend that is bringing forward sustainability aspect and provision within the context of the space law. I mean, we just look at the 2008 Space Act in France, and we see that there are requirements in this consideration. Then if we focus on Europe, and if you focus on the national angle, maybe something that we should start developing and at least starting debating is the fact that we live in a region that is quite fragmented in terms of national space law, and as a consequence also on how sustainability concerns are tackled. Yep. So maybe let's start debate how to harmonize those laws and potentially having an European approach in this consideration, maybe one single voice that tackles the issue. It can be done at different layers. I mean, it could be some type of light harmonization where even if we look, for instance, at the space approach. Now we have licensing procedure for spectrum. We have authorization for satellite. We have the aspect of registration at the UN, right? We have the approach to space. And if we look at France, Germany, and UK, I mean, we see two completely different type of approach. That is, in any case, a huge burden for satellite operators, especially the small one, because they need to, based on the country they are dealing with, to completely diversify the approach. So, I mean, let's try to see whether we can harmonize such a system in terms of probably having like portals that are in common, or just formulas and applications that are similar. And maybe the opposite of that, or let's say the extreme of that, could be even considering a pan-European license, which, I mean, let's debate about that.
European license, that's
I like
so
the
cool.
name of
That's
it.
so cool, yeah. I mean, we just should keep in mind that next June we have European elections. Let's settle that in for a second. And then let's talk about the concept of flag of convenience when I built my satellite operator. But that's a topic for another Space Café.
No, because you've seen the two I mean, like, you see here the policymaker, the approach is obviously different. You and I, we see this from a more like press point of view, because we follow, you know, from outside, and what Torsten is saying. I cannot agree with you. I cannot not agree with you. I'm so used to not agree with you that even when I agree with you, I'm like surprised of Freudian lapses. I'm sorry. No, I understand what you're saying, because we follow the politics and we see it happening every year. And I mean, I think the concept of national interest is completely correct. On the other side, I think she's presenting another view, the view of people that work on the international level, and that's what they're aiming for.
I asked very nice and kind question.
What I meant is that I think both realities are correct. Like, I see where you're coming from. I completely understand you, because I agree with you. She sees from another working point of view, and the hope is that she, with her view, can somehow balance the kind of cynicism that you and I perceive when we go to this conference in a sort of way. So,
back to you,
back to me.
Valentin. May I step here? When we do have European laws what are national executed. That is, for instance, at cars, we have the Euro norm. The Euro norm 5, for instance. That is a European law executed locally. Yeah. So just as a positive example where it works, it can work.
Yeah, you need
we
mandate.
talk about the multi-billion car industry in these years, and if just a car industry in a few countries which were dominant.
He's bitter today, isn't he?
Isn't that exactly the same situation in space?
Are we having an omnipresent space industry here in Europe? I mean, it's a fraction of anything else.
Yes, but we have
how big the space industry here is in Europe? I mean, forget about the 500 billion that are out. I mean, that's a global market, yeah? I mean,
that's a very interesting question.
Are we talking about 100 billion? Do we talk about 50 billion? I don't know. I mean, it's a fraction of everything else. It's a fraction of car and whatever we have here in Europe.
Eurocouncil publish every year the business economy numbers, and
global, I think.
No, it gives it by continent. And
so, Emmeline, we want to have the numbers. So if you listen to us,
I think we are around 12 for Europe. Compare, yes, more.
Okay.
Maybe I'm thinking about venture capital's investment. So the numbers are out. So we actually.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not prepared on this, but we can.
Okay, sorry.
Back to Russia, Valentin. And answer a question that you wanted to tackle. No, you were starting about bringing back to the geopolitical question. Like, you were starting to speak about Europe, the US, China, the interest of China into the regulation and everything. I know that you say you don't want to speak about Russia, but maybe we can contextualize China and India compared to the US, and then we can try to discuss Russia, pretending that we're not discussing Russia.
My very, let's say, my very personal point of view is I can't count on any, let's see, how should I say that in a somehow political, neutral way? They are not trustful what they are doing. So, in a way that I do not expect that if you will come to an agreement, that this agreement will be somehow valuable. And that's why anything what, from my perspective, for the moment, what is now going on with Russia is there is no possibility of an agreement that will be seriously to take. Due to the situation what we have here on the global conflict topics. Yeah? They're doing anyhow what they want. And that is not so different as China. But China is somehow more reasonable in that sense, that say, okay, there are guys who wants to come now with on the geopolitical scene. They see, okay, US is on track. The European are now also to be, and they want to become into the game and try to be serious. That's why I take very much more serious the Chinese than for the moment the Russians. But you know, Russian guys are very warm welcome to be at the UNOOSA, to be proactive there and say, okay, guys, we are now serious in the way we want to come into an agreement for the long-term sustainability fund.
And I think it's also a matter of interest. Actually, China has an interest in maintaining the orbit clear. They have an invested interest because after the US, I think they are the second country with the highest number of satellites.
Yes.
So they have an invested interest in actually keeping it clean.
Yes, and yeah, so at the end, I don't see, let's say, as comparable to what is commercial space activities in Europe, in China, as it's somehow commercial there, and in US. I don't see that a big amount of commercial constellations whatsoever services out from Russia for the moment upcoming. So at the end, there is no big pressure from their side to get an agreement, as they are for the moment not in the game.
If countries spend 90+% on defense, then it's hard to maintain a space program, I would say.
Exactly.
In my small
Yeah.
So,
And
before you answer, hold a second, call to all of you. You have the chance to. I know that we are over time. I know, but it's my show, so. and there's no ORF coming after us, so it's okay. It's okay. So, but we want to give you the chance to ask your questions. So we have wonderful mics here set up for you, and after Sarah is finishing her answer, I'm coming back to you and ask for your questions if you have any. If not, we're continuing as normal.
No, just one quick comment. It's also related to monitoring capabilities and space situation awareness. So, I mean, it also depends based on your capabilities if you really require that need for international consensus on how to deal with STM. So, I mean, it's also part of the game. It was just a quick comment.
I thought you're giving your point on the geopolitical.
I can, of course, yeah.
You're highly invited. I mean, if Emma does not invite you, I invite you.
Absolutely. Really.
Well, on the geopolitical question, I think here you can really, when you're talking about an international approach to space sustainability, either you look for bilateral and unilateral mechanism, or you're looking for multilateral, right? I think like one great example for looking at the bilateral, minilateral type of aspect is the Artemis Accord.
Did you say minilateral?
Minilateral.
Minilateral. Never heard that.
No?
That sounds nice.
Cool.
It sounds good.
Yeah,
it's like pan-European.
Sounds
Put
like
them together. Pan-European minilateral.
It's stable.
It's like a...
Okay, sorry.
And this is what is happening, for instance, with the Artemis Accord. And I think an example where we have 33 countries signing the Artemis Accord with Angola recently doing that is for sure an example of how countries can use this type of bottom-up approach for really coordinating between each other. They are not binding, But this does not mean that if the numbers are there, this could not in the future also become part of customary law and so becoming binding as well. Then how sustainability is tackled within the Artemis Accord is quite limited. So in terms of the real effect, we cannot really discuss on that, but in terms of mechanism, it's definitely something that should be mentioned. And then if you look at the multilateral one, again, I think there are a series of initiatives that we just mentioned during the session, from the Space Sustainability Resolution, the Resolution 2019 of the ITU, the policy brief of the Secretary General. There is a need for sure at the international level to at least try to coordinate and avoid duplication of effort. This is mostly happening from intergovernmental organizations than from countries per se, but this is part of the game. And I think if we really continue to go in parallel, those like putting aside bilateral, minilateral, and multilateral, I see a trend that is bringing forward some positive outcome, at least. To a bit conclude with
unilateral agreement.
Yeah.
Is it just between you and yourself?
No, minilateral.
Minilateral. Thank you. It was a unilateral. Doesn't sound like an agreement.
having for instance an agreement between 3 countries, or a bilateral that then it's multiplied by different countries, such as for instance the Artemis.
That's a multilateral.
That's a bilateral.
A bilateral.
Yes. Because it's US with single countries.
Okay, what's the other?
That's your marriage contract.
Yeah, that's marriage.
Usually bilateral.
It's bilateral. Depends on.
I didn't want to. Yeah, minilateral is
just digging.
No, it's an education program here.
Yeah, exactly. So
minilateral, for instance, between 3 countries.
Okay. So I thought it was multilateral. This is what.
Multilateral is when it's a multilateral, but it's a limited scope.
Okay.
Where you don't have, for instance, if you have the treaty per se with 30 countries. Okay, but let's not go into that.
Okay, yeah, we're in Arab. I can
want
see.
it.
Yeah.
I just want to be a bit klugscheißen. What is a good German word because isn't Artemis now having 34 with isn't Argentina?
Argentina, yeah.
I think was the last one now after Angola. It's
34, yeah.
Gotcha.
And if we want to dig into geopolitical one.
Yes, hey, Germany signed.
No. Egypt just signed with China.
Come on.
Sorry. If we want to do
That's so mean. We were in a good mood here.
Sorry.
Yeah?
Okay, let's wrap up.
No, let's ask our audience.
Wrap up us, so we just pass the word to you. Any geopolitical question about
Does
Russia?
anyone has a question here? If so, why? So
Hello.
Please introduce yourself briefly.
Hi, I'm Juliana Neuhuber. I'm part of the impressive company, and we're also working on space sustainability. So my question is, can you give us a little bit of a forecast? What is the regulator's nightmare and the operations hell in the next years?
Have you been in here?
Just because you were very polite. So can you just
You're right.
sum it up
Absolutely.
and
You mean we were polite because we didn't say they will fuck it up? Things like that?
yeah.
Back to Valentin.
I want to have it. I want to have it on the record.
You're right.
Okay.
No, completely.
For the question, Diana. And by the way, great job for the production here to you and the entire team behind. That gave you some time to think.
I don't know. Is it a nightmare to have rules? I don't see it as it is. Good. It might be a nightmare if I don't make a good administration. Yeah. And it might be for the operators the hell if they have to pay fees. But if they apply that for Europe, fair enough. Everyone who is doing business with Europe have to comply to the rules, fair enough. And so, yes, it might be a nightmare changing the behavior, but this is just, I hope, a very fast and positive process.
In our age, any change is a nightmare, I can tell you.
Yes, thanks a lot. I'm older than you know.
I know. I want to be polite.
Okay.
So, do we have other questions?
Maybe Sarah wants to add something.
Oh,
I don't know.
I'm told, yeah. So that was impolite of me.
Don't worry, that's fine. I think the challenge, let's not call it nightmare, it's really, if we are focusing on Europe, it's the fragmentation, because in any case, you are dealing with a congested environment, and if you want to move on, it's definitely need to find consensus. And in Europe, we really have an issue with fragmentation in approach, and it's the same then when you need, especially in the geopolitical situation, try to find consensus. And a lot of initiative, different players, different actors, different purposes, different interests, and you just need to bring everything together.
So what
Where
Sarah
is the
calls
kingdom when you need it?
fragmentation, we call it national interest, so which means that it's difficult to bring Europe together because each country goes in their own direction fundamentally, and that's where it becomes difficult to create a common regulation.
Can you please play the European spirit here a bit broader and not just pointed to the national?
But no, what is most European then? This is the quintessence
Diverse.
of European. Just pointing the finger at the other nation
Yeah,
and say, it's your fault, it's not my fault. This is as European as it gets.
So we are united in disagreement?
Yes, exactly, like a very bad marriage.
Okay.
Just stick together.
I want to bring it to the positive picture. You are in a club.
Yeah, sorry, depends from the point of view.
There was another question. Yeah, please.
Hi, I'm Jana Kivaro. I'm also from the impressive company. I have a question. Thank you. Needed to be adjusted downwards. The space sustainability topic reminds me a bit of global warming or of climate change, as it's called now, in that lots of people are trying to act like nothing's happening. The community knows what's happening and it's not getting better without action. However, other than with climate change, it's not necessarily like the poor countries who stand to lose the most. Do we know who stands to lose the most when, I don't know, everything's blowing up?
Yes. We as humanity.
No, I think
Of
that's
course.
No, there is. I think it's undeniable that the US has the way more number of satellites up there. So if you want to rank in them in terms of interest, who is gonna regret the most the lack of regulation at the moment? If the US. That doesn't mean that we as Europeans don't have an invested interest, of course, because we do use internet and etc. So it's not that we are waterproof to this problem. If you want to have a straight answer at the moment, the United States, in my opinion, is the one that has the strongest invested interest in having a common regulation, which is also why Russia doesn't particularly care at the moment, because we don't have the same, they don't have the same advanced of satellites, network, constellation, etc. And
You're in the role of the co-moderator here today.
sorry, I gave an answer,
Yeah.
Valentin.
But if that's the case, why is it so difficult to get people to act?
We are just having, I think the last week, or was it finished, the COP28 in Dubai, and if you followed the statements there, for me it's not convincing what's going on there. The last agreement we had was Paris. We are violating the Paris Agreement more and more, and the rest, what is coming now is, I think it's not even the attempt to mitigate what happens. So that's my feeling here. I don't see progress, and it's just another dystopian future here, not just in space, but also there. And I see the parallels. You're absolutely right. From the regulatory point of view, from the action point of view, because how should I take actions if the others doesn't? And the other way around, what counts my action if the other doesn't? So then I can continue before I'm suffering.
Yeah, to be very cynical, the rich countries who are causing most of climate change are not the ones bearing the brunt of the consequences. So from a very cynical point of view, that kind of makes sense to not care about climate change
They just
that much.
created a new fund of whatever billions.
Yeah, because it's
to pay
popular.
forward.
It's popular, so there needs to be done. Something needs to be done, but not too much, because otherwise, economy and stuff. But for the space sustainability, I do see that there are more powerful incentives for the space, like for the people who are putting all of that in space, more powerful incentives to actually care about the problem, because it's their own industries who will be suffering the most, and not, some poor guy somewhere.
That is, you're pointing to an interesting direction, because we see the drive comes not from the governments or the institutions. The drive comes from the companies. And when you see the activities of Starlink, or we might like them or not, they have their rules in place, or Wiresat, or you call them, all the big operators. They are very much aware of their assets in space, and they want to keep them, and they want to have them clean, and they do everything that no one is interfering with their orbits or their frequencies. So yes, so we see an industry-led activity, I think, in that field more than we see this political, let's do a Stuhlkreis thing.
I mean, that sounds optimistic.
Yes, yes.
Valentin.
Okay.
I think Valentin wanted to say something.
No, just, we are short of time.
Yes.
Just coming back to your question, Johanna, is if we blow up space as an environment, as a usable resource, the most, let's say, I say it straight away, it's a linear correlation with the industrialization of the country, of the population. So the most richest guys, will suffer the most, So it will, and the poorest will have it as an easy going, because they are using very few of the space services. So everything what is industrialized and is will suffer the most if we are blown up there.
Sarah?
Yeah, it's also a question of preclusion to the newcomers, because of course, if we are not regulating that, we are not guaranteeing any type of equitable access to the newcomers and so on. And if we, for instance, look at that from a capacity perspective, we see capacity model being implemented, for instance, for spectrum, for the environment aspect, for fishing, and for many other sectors, but we don't have that in LEO, which means that if we do not properly regulate, we will not allow the newcomers and the developing country to take advantage of what space can give. And that's also one of the debate of the current status.
And to me, so I offer my final opinion. I'm not sure it's really like climate change, because if the first part of the statement, I agree with you. Like, we are observing a problem and we are basically doing nothing for it. But on the other, on one side, climate change, there is strong interest in keeping it happening, because we have an economical system all based on something that is creating energy, etc., etc. When it comes to traffic and debris, my perception, and this is a personal opinion, so I don't want to sell it as an expert opinion, my feeling is that we literally don't know. We are at the beginning of a problem. My feeling when I look at the space industry and the problems that we have created is that it's a very young problem, and we're still trying to understand where it's going, how to tackle it. Like, similar to medicine 250 years ago, if you know what I mean. Like, this is my personal opinion. I'm not saying that it might not holding against a more expert person, but my feeling is that we literally don't know how to tackle it.
I'm not sure.
Okay, maybe it's not true. We might be. It's a personal view, absolutely.
No,
I'm not going to sell it as
But we are now totally over time.
Yes.
Emma, why don't you bring it home now?
Yes, thank you very much to everyone for being here. Thank you very much for our space watchers that are following us from home. Thank you, Sarah, of course, and thank you, Valentin, for having this beautiful idea. And thank you to the Café Carina for hosting us here. This is fantastic, and to the entire team that has been here allowing us this to happen. You will see us as a team on the stage at the World Space Forum at UNOOSA in the next few days. This is also why we're here. Tomorrow morning, don't miss the keynote of our master of storytelling, Marcus. I'm not going to pronounce the surname because it's absolutely impossible for me, and I'm surrounded by
You're here in Austria, yeah. It is.
Marcus, I'm really sorry. I don't want to humiliate myself pronouncing your surname.
It's just Moslechner. I mean, that's how Austrian.
There you go. Marcus.
So.
don't miss it. He's one of our gold member. Tomorrow afternoon, I will host a sort of interactive session about the problem of space communication. I call it Nobody Cares About Your Satellite. So you already know where I'm going to go with this 30 minutes speech. And is about my perception of the problems that we have in the space industry when it comes to communication, or my frustration derivating from the problems of it. On Wednesdays, I will have the pleasure of moderating a panel in the morning, which is about some of the topics we actually touched today, about the question of how we can self-regulate our issues, how we can actually bring regulation into our everyday problems. This is include debris, so it might be interesting also for you guys. And of course, on Wednesday, we're going to have another live recording, a Space Café podcast by Marcus, this time with no one else than the new director of UNOOSA, Arti Holla-Maini.
What was Marco's surname?
Is Marcus M. How about that? And Torsten will be around chasing people, which seems a bit menacing, if I must be honest, for interviews with the Space Café clips. So if you're there, please come to say hi. And thank you very much for all following us. Thanks to everyone and to our online audience. If we don't catch up before the Christmas holidays, Merry Christmas if you celebrate. And of course, Happy New Year's. Have a fantastic 2024. And we will welcome you with the new transformed SpaceWatch.Global. This is very optimistic by January, Torsten, but let's hope. Space Watch out. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.